Hello?
Dude, that musical last night. Come on. Come on. It was all the robots and then the memories and then the Waboon and then the Walla. Did we
Dude,
bother?
I literally texted you. I'm working on the review video right now. I gotta
Okay.
go.
Okay.
I'm way too busy for this. I gotta.
Hello? Hello?
My name's Jimmy, and you're watching A Random Walk Down Broadway. So what is Maybe Happy Ending? Maybe Happy Ending is an original South Korean one-act musical. Runs about an hour 45. The lyrics were written by Hugh Park. The music composed by Will Aronson. It debuted in South Korea in 2016, received numerous awards. Now it's become the first South Korea to Broadway transfer, where it's directed by the Michael Arden. So the musical takes place in the not too distant future Seoul, South Korea, where humans have these sort of humanoid-looking helper robots, or helper bots as they're called in the musical. And, I'm going to kind of steal this from Darren Criss a little bit because I think he described it well. Much like when you have a cell phone and you don't throw it away, you just kind of put it in this desk drawer, something about you just kind of prevents you from throwing it out. Humans had this very similar feeling to the robots, but obviously to a more extreme level because they look like humans. And they decided, hey, instead of the junkyard, we're sending them to the retirement home. And we follow two robots in this retirement home: Oliver, a helper bot 3, Claire, a helper bot 5. Both are obsolete, and we kind of followed their love story once they cross paths in this retirement home. And right from the beginning, we're asked, why love? And then by the end of the musical, we're being faced with the question, was it a happy ending? And the answer is maybe. If you're trying to compare this show to something, think Wall-E, think Pixar, but also kind of A Walk to Remember. And if for any of my gamers out there, kind of like Detroit Become Human, if I'm being honest. And I'm going to save my review for the end. But guys, this is a masterpiece. We have got a lean cast for the show with just 4 actors taking the stage. Right off the bat, we have 2 University of Michigan alum, 2 Wolverines. We've got Darren Criss, you know him from Glee, superstar, and we've got Helen J. Shen making her Broadway debut. Helen J. Shen, who plays Claire, Helperbot 5, is giving a I was there when type performance. What do I mean? I mean, you're going to say years from now, I was there when Helen J. Shen made her Broadway debut in Maybe Happy Ending. She is that good. She is truly impressive in her comedic timing. Her vocals are insane. Every single time I brought someone to come see the show, they just turn to me and go, oh my God, she's amazing. So good. Her acting feels so natural that you totally think that she's just playing herself up there, which is an incredible thing to do as an actor. I mean, to take lines that you've rehearsed thousands upon thousands of times and then deliver them just like they're coming off the top of your head. That's just truly fantastic, and I can't say enough good things about it. I can't wait to see her more times in this role. I can't wait to see her perform at the Tonys, and I cannot wait to see what she does next. All right, so next up we got Darren Criss. He's probably the main reason that a lot of people are coming to the show in the first place. It's a huge stunt casting, huge market appeal. But you know what? The second he gets up on stage, you forget you're watching Darren Criss at all. He completely transforms into the Helperbot 3, completely transforms into Oliver. And dare I say Tony on the horizon? He is giving, it's early, a lot of shows haven't come out. Darren Criss is giving a best leading actor in a musical type performance right now. Just his mannerisms, his tone, his syntax, just everything is really helping you buy into this is an obsolete robot singing to me on stage. And you know what? It's made all the more difficult because this is an emotional story. He's delivering some scenes where, it's ripping the audience's heart apart. But you know what he can't do is show us that emotion. He's an obsolete robot. He's not capable of showing these emotions. And he's somehow ripping your heart out without himself crying or shedding a tear. It's one of the most incredible things to watch. Next up, you have Marcus Joy, who plays James, Junso, and a lot of other characters throughout this story. He was in the original Broadway cast of Wicked, and he recently played George Washington in the Philip tour of Hamilton. Marcus takes us on a fantastic acting journey throughout this. He starts off as this kind, gentle old soul in James, Oliver's owner. And throughout the story, he transforms into all these other characters that we see on stage. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but it just provides much comedic relief. It's one of the best bits on Broadway, honestly. And then, by the end of it, he's transformed himself from this like old soul to, this like young, angsty, sort of rebellious young adult, almost resentful young adult too. And again, no spoilers, but just some great acting here. And then on top of that, his impeccable timing, because if anyone's watched this, there's a lot he has to do to really align with what's happening in terms of the staging and lighting. And if he's off by like a millisecond, it falls apart. I mean, this is truly incredible. Last but certainly not least is Des Duran, who is making his Broadway debut as James and Oliver's favorite all-time singer, Gil Brentley. Des is actually the longest tenured member of the cast, as he was actually back with the Alliance Theater run in 2020 as well. And some of you may even recognize him from The Voice, as in Season 3 he finished top 8. Des may mostly be getting recognized for his vocals in the show, which are fantastic. But what I think is getting under-discussed is how much effort he's put into the character building of this. One, if you've listened to him sing outside of this show, like before maybe Happy Ending, he does have like a pretty different singing style. He's definitely created a voice for Gil Brentley, really nailing that like old school crooner kind of sound. It's so crisp, it's so clean. And then on top of that, he's not asked to deliver any lines, but he is certainly acting up there. I mean, you get like this comedic and like charming, charismatic personality during like the song Jenny, but then later in, Then I Can Let You Go, he's a little bit more sullen and kind of ripping your heart out. And so, it's in the contrast of these two performances that you really are like, oh, you know what? He doesn't have lines, but this guy is acting up there. And I just wanted to give him his flowers on that because I feel like it's going a bit under-discussed. Des Duran is dynamite. I was also fortunate enough to have the opportunity to go back and see Hannah Kavita as Claire and Christopher Tomeo as Gil Brentley, and they both did excellent, so you are in great hands no matter which night you choose to go. I'd be remiss not to mention the true star of the show, the absolute diva, Hua Boon. Hua Boon is one of the few performers that on a nightly basis gets to perform himself, and he does it masterfully. In the beginning, he's getting way too much sunlight. You truly buy into him being this dying plant, and then by the second act, well, it's a one-act musical, so by the second half of the one act, he's perking up, he's coming back to life. It's an acting masterclass, and I just have one thing to say. Watch out, Audrey. There's a new plant in town. We have to talk about this stage design. Look, I'm a caveman. You give me spectacle, you give me illusion, you give me fire, lights, flying cars, whatever, I lose my mind. It's why Harry Potter is one of my favorite plays on Broadway, despite some serious plot holes. Not going to talk about that here. But of all the musicals on Broadway right now, nobody's doing staging better than maybe Happy Ending. This crew is fantastic. I want to give them their flowers one by one. It's not too many people. Dane Laffrey, scenic and video design. Ben Stanton, lighting design, George Reeve, video projection design, Peter Helinski, sound design, Suki Sugimoto, makeup design, Clint Ramos, costume design, and Craig Miller, hair design. I hope I didn't miss anybody, but this crew is creating a Pixar film every single night. Before your very eyes. I don't know how else to word it. I've not seen transitions like this before. I've never seen projections like this before. The sound effects have never been used more purposefully or effectively. And the costume, makeup, and hair team is just perfectly transforming Darren and Helen into helper bots every single night. And without, spoiler, the conductor scene, if you know, you know. I mean, I have not seen a more beautiful scene on Broadway. There's nothing intrinsically important from a story standpoint about that moment, but for some reason it's the moment in the show that hit me the hardest. I'm not sure why. I can't stress this enough for anyone who hasn't gone yet. Don't look up spoilers. Go in blind. Trust me, the payoff will be that much better. Alright, it's a musical, right? So we've got to talk about the score and lyrics. And at first, this score by Will Aronson and Hugh Park comes across very low-key, very relaxed. There's not a single, bam, in-your-face number. But that's not what this musical commands, right? You got to remember, we've got a musical here about robots. They're not going to be super expressive or emotional. And then you've got, an old-school crooner jazz singer. But you know what? This score achieves that dynamic perfectly. And I can't say enough how addictive this score is to listen to. I mean, the orchestration is just beautiful. The lyrics are fantastic. And you know what? When this original Broadway cast album of Maybe Happy Ending drops, it will be #1 in my Spotify Wrapped. And there's just this special quality about how, you know, a lot of times on shows you get callbacks to lyrics from earlier in the show. But this orchestration is calling back to each other. There are moments where, like, Goodbye My Room and Where You Belong and Why Love are, like, woven into the background of the orchestra at different parts of the show. And I just think that is, like, so beautiful and so masterful, and a complete understanding of where they wanted this score to go. Even just these little tiny details that they have, where, like, the notes in the Sitting By Your Side during the song When You're in Love are the exact same as the jingle of When the Battery's Dying. It's just incredible. I truly think this is my favorite orchestration of any musical. And again, that Chasing Firefly scene, if you know, you know. Look, and then I have to go into a few of these lyrics here, but I need to take a time out first and say there will be spoilers the rest of the way. So if you have not seen Maybe Happy Ending before, I highly recommend stopping now. But I will say one more thing first. Look, if you want to see a Pixar film in front of your very eyes, if you want a masterful orchestration, if you want to see the first South Korea to Broadway transfer, if you want to see a Glee superstar, if you want to see a new Broadway superstar making her Broadway debut, top-notch singing, I mean, the works, this is the show for you. I cannot say enough good things about this. This show is S tier. All right. Please forgive me all the looking over I'm going to do. And there's a lot of lyrics that I wanted to get through, and so I had to write them out a little bit here. But the first is in How Not to Be Alone by Claire. The lyric where she says, "As I forget the stranger you were before, we're slowly getting in sync." It's so simple. But it really highlights that moment in a relationship that almost goes unnoticed, right? There's a point where someone transitions in your life from being some stranger to someone you can't live without. And there should almost be a word for that moment. And I just thought it was such a powerful thing to focus on in this story, and the lyrics captured it perfectly. The next song that I want to drill into the lyrics on are What I Learned from People by Claire, and it's the line when she sings, "It hurts watching people change. He was still standing next to her, but they were alone. Everything must end eventually." I mean, in the matter of 2 lines, we understand that her owners grew apart, they felt alone despite being in a relationship, and that this led them to breaking up, and now shapes Claire's pessimistic worldview on relationships. It's just a chef's kiss. I mean, you can't capture a character's whole worldview more succinctly. Sad chef's kiss, but chef's kiss indeed. The next song that I want to dive into is the song When You're in Love. There's probably too many lyrics in this song to go into them all. I could probably do a video on just this song alone. It's such a special song because they address the common feelings that we all have when it comes to love. And they draw the audience into that, right? But then they dive into the little quirks of what love means to them specifically. You know, these 2 unique robots and, you know, what their quote-unquote love language is. And the lyric that really sticks out is, you know, when you're in love, you're the loneliest. You're only half when one is what you were. You're part instead of whole. When you're in love, you're the loneliest. And I think anybody who has been in love can relate to this. You know, before you fell in love, you were doing your own thing. You were good. You were happy, going to your coffee, reading your book, whatever it is. And then you fell in love and it rocked your world a little bit, right? And then you found yourself not feeling sort of as blissfully ignorant as before, right? All of a sudden, these moments you were alone and full of joy are sort of now substituted by the feeling of missing that person. And, you know, you're reading this book and you want to tell them about it, or you're getting this coffee, you want to share it with them. And so this song, When You're in Love, just captures that dynamic so perfectly. You've got to listen to it. And then you've got the 2 songs, you know, outside of When You're in Love that probably just, you know, are the 2 most crucial songs in the show, and that's Maybe Happy Ending and Why Love. I'm going to list off some rapid fire lyrics here. So we've got, the ending is not the most important part. They'll still be happening, just somewhere in the past. Each simple moment was a luxury. They're not less valuable just because they didn't last. And then the simple lyric, why love? Why did we bother to try love? And that'll take us to my official review. Going to start out with a friendly reminder here that this review absolutely will contain spoilers, and there are only 2 shows on Broadway right now that I think you need to go into absolutely blind, and they are Maybe Happy Ending and Hadestown. So don't listen to this if you haven't seen it, just go see it. Out of the gates, this show is an absolute S tier, so don't walk, run. Run, don't walk. Don't jog, sprint to the Belasco. Okay, now hopefully I don't take up too much of your time. I know that it gets to be a lot listening to some dude in a bucket hat ramble about a musical for about a half hour, but there's a lot to cover, so please bear with me. First things first, the question of the show is, why love? It's the question that we get asked right from the opening number, but something under-discussed here is the use of commas, okay? Bear with me. Is it why, comma, love, question mark? Or is it why love, question mark? No comma at all. And remember, people, commas save lives. Okay, if you ever had that English poster, it's the difference between let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma, right? So this is the difference between an ultimate philosophical question of why love at all, right? Or versus why love, honey, dear, babe, boo-boo, etc., right? And I was actually discussing this with Christopher Tomeo at the stage door. He understudies for both Gil and Oliver. And we had different takes, and I've gone back and forth on this, but here's where I've landed. We've got double entendres happening, and we're not in Hamilton. The answer to the question that I'm asking is, it's both. The whole way through, it's both. And if you didn't have the last line of that song, I could really buy into the word love just being a synonym for the honey, dear, babe, boo-boo, etc., right? But instead, they sing, and that final task to sigh and ask, why love? That cements it. They're straight up asking us why love. And, it's the wordplay. It can go either way. It's both the whole time. And then let's unpack this even further, right? Diving deeper, the question of why love comes from the 2 themes of loss of love explored in this show, right? Each character's history with their owners represents the 2 themes. Claire represents the breakup kind of love and the heartbreak that comes with that via her experience with her owners. And then Oliver represents the passing away loss of love. And as we come to learn of James passing away later in the story, we get quotes that say, the feeling of love only lasts a maximum of 4 years, and then it's just inertia and fear of being alone that keep people together. And then we get the other quote, love is unstable. Love is well known to have an equal tendency to create pain rather than joy and makes humans and robots act irrationally. And then Claire just throws in the line, and we're falling apart, right? So then it begs the question, why love if it's doomed, right? If you love and get together, there's a good chance you break up and you have your heart broken. And if you somehow make it through that, you're going to die anyway. And it's a whimsical musical, but the topic is really, really bleak. And I think that song, Maybe Happy Ending, covered it perfectly. That you can't put more weight into the ending of something than the rest of it. The ending doesn't take the happiness out of the moments you already had. It's important to, shift perspective and be grateful for those moments and understand that the ending wasn't the most important part of the story. And taking that note, that's what makes the ending of this story a masterpiece. The creators were not hypocritical. This was an Inception-like ending. You don't know what Claire chose to do at the end, not for certain. I talked with Helen about this at the stage door, and she had asked me what I thought. And at first we kind of agreed that, Claire did delete her memory. For me, the tell is, the first time around she knocks on the door, Oliver lets her battery die. But this second time around, when she knocks at the door, he does open it before her battery dies. And if Claire had decided to keep her memory, she would have known right then that Oliver kept his. But she was not caught off guard. But there's still something different from the way that, Claire's acting the first time. And I like the way Helen worded this. She said, I do think Claire deleted her memory, but I think Oliver is still somewhere inside there. And, I was thinking about this, and I think that that's canon. As far as we know from Claire's past, deleted memories can be restored. Her owner did this already, right? So that means it kind of has to be stored in there somewhere, even if you delete it. So maybe deep down, Oliver's still there in the hard drive. But the point here, back to the creators, they didn't give us a clear ending. And maybe that's because it wasn't the most important part.
The ending's not the most important part, but as endings go, ours is not so bad. No tears, no regret, no broken heart.